Francisco and his family flee La Colonia, revealing Alejandro's leadership to be one decaying into paranoia and control. Meanwhile, Strand has a bad encounter with a stabby Eileen. But luckily, Hector's brother is a narcos with a large supply supermarket, where Elena and Maddie run into a kidnapped Francisco, and overheard about American with ratty hair. Oh, and we find out what happened to Ofilia. I didn't look at the calendar, but it must be Coincidence Day. On Fear the Walking Dead, Season 2, Episode 12, Pillar of Salt. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Fear the Walking Dead. So, there are spoilers ahead, just so you've been warned. So as much as I was joking before, this is actually, I found, a really good episode with a few minor drawbacks which always tip on the same points that I hit over and over again. But let's start off with what was going on with Alejandro. Of course, we had Francisco and his family fleeing La Colonia in the very beginning, showing how the colony is really starting to decay. They're going to run out of meds. They constantly have to go for water. This is not a situation that can persist. And what it also shows is Alejandro's style of control, of his leadership style, really decays very quickly into one of control and paranoia. And using things against people. With Luciana, he's using guilt. Did you know about this? Why aren't you doing things? Don't you believe me? We're going to need you to help support people around. Really forcing her to questioning whether or not she wants to be here, which of course she really does. She is committed. Now with Nick, uses a different technique. Nick sees things very quickly that there is something not right with Alejandro, that his leadership really is kind of lacking. Now, Nick wants to help, but he also wants to really contribute. He wants to show the skills that he has, to really be part of the colony. I mean, their viewpoint, their perception of the dead really sinking in a lot with his. And it also could be a sign of his addiction, from going from drugs to now being addicted to this type of world, this sort of worship of the dead where he can dwell and connect in with. I think this really sort of fits in with him, really plays to his weak points. But Alejandro uses the whole father thing with Nick, of course, who had lost his father, very much sort of a victim of that, and has that still as his weak point. So while Alejandro, I could see him, trying to use everything he has, I thought sort of stepping that quickly into, okay, I want you to help me like a son. It's like, really, you're going to go for the whole son thing? I know this is something that really kind of appeals towards Nick, is really going to grab him as a character. So in that sense, it's used well, but it's one of those it's one of those just tropes that are really difficult to pull off well. But of course, the reality of Francisco leaving is that this is now going to put them in a bad position with the narcos. They were scheduled to make a trade, and of course, Alejandro's not letting anyone leave. And so it's just a lot of that dynamic between Nick and Alejandro, with Nick seeing the reality of the world around him and not being necessarily caught up just in the belief system that Alejandro is. I mean, you could just really, once he sort of decays into that preachiness of you have to believe me, we have to have faith. What Nick is saying here is, yeah, that's all fine and good, but this is the reality of the world that we have to go. We have to actually have a plan. And this shows a lot of the leadership different styles that you have in this world and what's starting to manifest. You have Alejandro, who is leading by strict belief. Believe in me, believe in this world, fear the outside, and everything will be okay. Versus someone like Nick, who is saying, yeah, that's all fine and good, but we need a plan. And Maddie is really good with that whole plan situation. Stepping up and saying we need to take care of the hotel and bring that up and led us to a nice little Walker montage moment there. That was awesome. Though usually a montage is meant to imply a larger passage of time while doing things. This, again, I think the whole episode happens just in one day. Because Francisco leaves in the morning, and they are immediately saying that we needed to meet him this afternoon. We need to meet Marcos this afternoon, one of the narcos, and make the big trade. And then, of course, the episode ends at night with the whole generator scene, which we'll hit on just a moment. So a lot of things happening in one day montage. Again, usually implying a much further passage of time, but of course here it's just getting things done, which puts everyone in a great mood. And you know, the moment you put people in a good mood in their show, something bad is going to happen. I even thought in the moments when Francisco was leaving before, it's like as soon as he escaped and everyone cleared and got on the road, just expecting that gunshot, which didn't happen. But we did hear the motor revving very quickly, which eventually led to his kidnapping. So the moment you think things are happy, things are going to be good, that's when bad stuff happens. And for Strand, that's his encounter with Stabby Eileen, which deals with those whole other plans. And here's where Maddie's strength comes in, stepping up. Okay, these are going to be the new rules. We have to see how we survive in this new world, which was great. The downside is where it all ends into, of course, is the whole meetup at the supermarket and overhearing Francisco and her immediate decay. She goes from strong to immediately whiny decay the moment she thinks about Nick or perceives Nick or anything connected to that. And that's also where you have the great dynamic in this episode dealing with Alicia and her mom, how Alicia, a nice little bonding moment with Strand there, discussing the whole raising of oneself. And that, of course, has made her strong. But it also was really a big sign of how her mom really doesn't see her. Or maybe not even so much see her, as just assumes that she is going to be there and okay, and thus doesn't really acknowledge her. And I think that's really that final scene came up at the end, at the generator, where it was really just that moment of, look, you are risking everything. You've messed things up in the supermarket. Surprise Marco didn't just shoot her, to be perfectly honest. That was just a horribly done scene on her end. I'll get into that more in a second. But really just that whole moment of, look at me, I am right here, that Alicia was trying to connect in that last moment. You are risking everything. You were literally turning on a beacon in the midst of a Walker apocalypse where we know horrible people are. And you're throwing on a beacon on the chance that one person might see it who might not even be anywhere around. You're going to risk all that, but you can't even acknowledge that your daughter is right here. So just a lot of great strength and moments going on throughout there. And then, of course, there was Ofilia's bit. Now, I'm glad that Ofilia is alive. And something must have happened because she is walking tougher and moving faster and stronger than we have seen her before. Not a whole lot of time has passed. I don't know what's been in the past couple of days. She's just heading up to try and find her fiancé or ex-fiancé, as it is. I thought her scenes were kind of a little pulled away. I'm glad that we got to know what was going on, and just lightly interspersed was probably the best thing in order to move this forward. But whenever we got to her story, I just sort of felt a certain momentum loss right there. We don't know how long it's been since the proposal and now. No, I mean, it's been at least a little while, because she did tell the story to Nick before about she did have a boyfriend and left, and didn't work out. She had to stay with her family. So a certain amount of time we know had passed before the apocalypse had started, but not too much. But I'm good that we get to see her. She's all right. Just, maybe leave a note next time. If there is one thing that every hotel room has, it's a pen and paper. And especially if there's still liquor in the mini fridge, then you're going to find that pad of paper. Just leave her a note. A lot of stuff was caused because she wanted to run off and didn't want to say anything. Just leave a note. That's it. A note. Hey, ran off. Sorry. I'm okay. Don't worry about me. Bye. My only real complaint with this episode is the mass coincidence factor used to motivate and propel all of the stories forward. Just kind of a little much. I just thought it was sloppily done. All right, that Hector's brother is one of the narcos and they're up nearby. Okay, Rosarito's up near Tijuana. Sure, okay, I can buy that. And Nick is up in La Colonia, which is also near Tijuana. Okay, again, we've got to start moving people together, so I understand those movements. But that Hector's brother is a narco that's at the same supermarket that La Colonia trades into, and right when they go there, that's the moment where they have Francisco, and they're interrogating him loudly so that everyone could overhear inside. That was a bit much. And an American with ratty hair, brings them drugs. That could be anybody. Now, this is a sign of Maddie's weakness. Nick is her weakness. He's her kryptonite. So the minute she hears anything that might be related to possibly interpreting as Nick, I can understand her reaction. I just thought it was a little bit of extreme. She's believing, oh, it's got to be close by. They're 100 miles, literally 100 miles, because that's what the road sign said, from the ranch to all the way up here. So the fact they both go in the same direction, they headed north, headed towards America, okay, I'll buy that. It's just, singular northern direction. But again, I'll go with that. I'll accept these lines, but they should have just stretched it out, crafted this a little bit better. I just thought it was clunky. Again, they want to get to this point, and so they just sort of push us through. I know, I repeatedly say this about the show. It is the one weakness that they have. However, I am glad at the end of the episode that the Narcos did find La Colonia. Not that I'm wishing ill on them or anything, but the reality is once they had found Francisco, they should have searched the area. He still seemed to have fresh blood on him, so he couldn't have been traveling for too far. Just, when you find them, if you think they're nearby, search the area. Don't necessarily pull him all the way back. Now, most likely, they had sent some people out to search that area as well as the interrogation. But it was just, you almost feel that Francisco was there just so Maddie could find him in that sense. And that's where it's just a little rough to me. And also, if I was Marcos, I would have shot Maddie in the head. I mean, they threatened to cut off Nick's hand because he stole a small bag of cookies. Or didn't steal, just had it stuck in his back pocket. Interpret it as you will. She runs in the midst of interrogation. Now, maybe not, because she's trying to find the same information they are, but maybe he could have used her. Just, okay, fine, here's your stuff, just get out of here. I didn't really buy that reaction. That's it, that's all. All right, just a couple of small little points now. One, I've actually been to the Rosarito Beach Hotel. I had to laugh when they finally showed the sign. I didn't stay at the hotel. There was another little resort place next to them that I was at, but I believe we've walked past it a few times. It's actually a lot more crowded right around that area than they relay in the show, but that's good. It gives it that isolated feel, which is important. But I just got a real kick out of seeing that. With Francisco and his family escaping, wouldn't you have tried to do that at night? I think it was supposed to be early morning, but it kind of looked very bright out, so I wasn't getting that whole, the sun's just coming up, maybe we're doing it as people are sleeping and we don't want to travel. I don't know, but it just seemed kind of obvious of everyone moving during the day. If you're really trying to be sneaky and you don't want to be seen, I would just assume you would do that at night. By the same token, okay, so everybody knows the whole cover yourself in walker blood trick. Because this wasn't really revealed too much until much further on into Walking Dead. Okay, this is West Coast and that's more East Coast. Different ways, different styles of developing thing. It's also the more, worshiping the dead cult, so they might be a little more aware of it. I just thought that was... We've never really seen that much until later on, and even then it seems to be a very risky move over on Walking Dead. Whereas here, it's like, well, I'm going to the grocery store. All right, gotta blood up. It's just really two different takes on it. The fear that I have with this, by doing it this way, is you start to lose the fear of the Walking Dead. I'm sorry, I couldn't avoid that. But it makes the walkers much less scary in that sense. If you can easily take these precautions and walk through large groups with it, then it sort of removes the danger to affect. I know it's really the living in this world that we are afraid of, but the walkers are an important environmental factor that we shouldn't take too lightly, because that's always when you get bit and eaten and ripped apart. I love when they revealed the fish, that they appreciated the fish, but that ice was more valuable. Very true. In the apocalypse, you can't generate ice. You can always catch fish. You can always brew liquor, but you can't make ice without electricity. Or it being really cold outside and going up to mountains. Either way, I love that little observation that ice is going to be the real value here. But, of course, now they've shown them something valuable. Now they might get followed back. That's how it works. And after just leading a whole parade of walkers off the pier, I would be a little more cautious about the water. Catching fish, I would have loved a sign of them pulling up a walker. That would have been just hilarious. Just an arm comes up on that big heavy fish pull. That would have been awesome. But the whole surfing thing, especially, it's like dangerous riptide that's going to pull you out to sea. Maybe not the time or place to learn surfing. Just a thought. I'd just be a little more cautious of the water. And finally, if the seaside restaurant that Ofilia breaks into and hammers that one girl at is still in Mexico, why were the outside signs all in English advertising for breakfast? It just kind of pulled me out of it. All right, well, that wraps us up for this week. Well, actually, not quite. Because while that silly little "let's light up the Rosarito Beach" sign did not necessarily get noticed by Nick, it was seen by Travis, that great last little shot that shows Travis, apparently by himself, catching the sign and heading towards Maddie. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that story next week. Now, as a quick little note, what has happened with Chris? Will we see him again? This actually is a good question to ask, because also revealed this week is Lorenzo James Henry, who plays Chris, has been cast as Gabe Reyes in this season's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He is the handicapped brother to Robbie Reyes. Robbie Reyes is the new Ghost Rider. So Lorenzo's going to be moving over to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm actually really excited to still see him, and hopefully in a sort of a better role. Gabe is a much more lighthearted. He's wheelchair bound. He's handicapped, but he's got a great sense of humor. I think it's going to be a nice different side of James that we've been seeing here in Walking Dead. So I'm really excited to see that. And of course, that premieres on Tuesday, just 2 days. Well, actually, by the time you see this, tomorrow. So Tuesday night on ABC, you can check that out. And of course, I'll be dropping a review for that right afterwards. So really looking forward to seeing what is going to happen with Travis, hear the story of what got on with Chris, and did he make it, or kind of like Nick and Maddie, did the two of them just go their separate ways? We'll have to wait and see that out. So if you did enjoy this review, go ahead and hit that like button. You can press the subscribe button right here and come back. There are 3 more episodes of Fear the Walking Dead this season. So we're going to have one next week, and then the week after that, the October 2nd, I believe we're going to have 2 episodes, and that's going to wrap things up. So then we'll get a couple of weeks break until The Walking Dead starts back up. So 2 more weeks, 3 more episodes to see. Come back, check it out. We will be talking about it. What did you think of the episode? Any particular thoughts? How do you feel about Ofilia now? Her little transformation, a bit more of a badass girl there. And do you think she should have left a note, or were you fine with her just sort of disappearing? Go ahead and throw that down in the comments section below. Also, any of your ideas about the little bit of a coincidence-driven plot tonight. Like I said, overall, I enjoyed the episode. I liked things moving forward. I like Maddie's establishment of a bit more of a rules. I'm hoping Strand is going to be okay. I don't know, it was there for a while before help came back, so hopefully he's going to pull through and not have any long-term processes, because you know as well as I do, if you are injured in the apocalypse, your chances of lasting drop significantly. Anyway, that's going to be it for this week. You can always catch me on Twitter. I'm at Darren Jakes. There it is right there. Otherwise, I will see you all next week. I'm D, and I am out of here. Take it easy. Bye-bye.